Okay, approve the consent agenda. All in favor, or do I hear a motion?
It's just the
There's
agenda.
nothing under.
It's just the agenda.
Agenda.
I make a motion that we do not approve the agenda as it is written. Under new business, I make a motion that we pull the certified career step from the agenda.
Okay, so we have a motion to pull,
Yes, sure.
we have a motion to pull the career, certified career steps from the agenda. Do I have a second? I'll second it. All in favor?
I'd like to discuss the motion.
Discuss the motion.
Definitely, okay. I requested this to be put on to the agenda. I requested it to be put on the agenda for the last meeting. We thought the meeting was too full. And we thought that it would be appropriate to bring it up at this meeting. It's something of time critical nature. It's something that we need to have taken care of by July 1st. If we'd like to get into the specifics of why I asked this to be added into the agenda, we can definitely discuss that. I can say it's unprecedented that we've ever had an item removed from the agenda that a board member has requested be discussed. And unless there's some sort of a real threat to discussing the issue, then I believe that just having a discussion would be at least prudent.
We have a motion and a
Second, and we've had discussion. Is there any more
Is
discussion?
there any more discussion? Okay, if not. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
So it's 5-2. So we're looking for public comments and recognition correspondence.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to recognize our Board of Education. Matt Cleveland and I attended the Missouri School Board Association Leadership Summit last Saturday and represented our school district. Our district team was presented the Governance Team Award for promoting excellence in public school governance through professional development, leadership, and advocacy. So this was a very fine honor that our team received. I would also like to note, and I should have asked Matt to bring his plaque, that Matt received master's certification, correct?
Mhm.
From Missouri School Board Association, and that means that he's done additional learning. So he has read books, he's written papers, he's gone to professional development training, participated on advanced online training, so that he can be the best board member he can be to represent our students, staff, and our community. So thank you, Matt, for your commitment to that. And then we were also honored, and by the time we were honored for the third time, during that day, they called us the Mighty Knobmasters, so that was really nice. But our team was awarded the 2015 Outstanding Boards of Education in Teaching, Learning, and Assessment. And this is a tremendous award. I kind of get choked up when I talk about this a little bit, because this really is the work of our teachers, our staff, our students, our community, our board, our administrators. This is all the hard work that we have done to make sure that we are promoting excellence and equity for every student we serve. And this is one of the most distinguished awards one of the 3 that we received that evening. So I just wanted to thank our team and thank our board for their commitment to excellence for our students. And so it was a very special evening. And I'd like to personally thank Matt for attending with me to represent the district. It was a very busy weekend. We had the Dogmaster Fair, we had the air show, and so it was a busy weekend, but it was a wonderful celebration. I would also like at this time, as president, to do a public recognition. Our office team wanted to present Dr. Norman with a beautiful bouquet of flowers and recognize her because as this is Dr. Norman's last board meeting with our district, I would like to take this opportunity to thank her for her service during the 2014-15 school year. Several descriptors come to mind when describing her leadership and the impact she has made for our students, staff, and community. These include kindness, professionalism, gentle strength, and compassion, instructional leadership, and a strong student advocate. Best wishes are extended to Dr. Norman in the next chapter of her career. I'm proud to call her my colleague and friend. Dr. Norman lives her life in accordance to the following quote by Dylan Durrows. Quote, "Live life today the way you want to be remembered tomorrow." End quote. Thank you, Dr. Norman, for your positive example, warmth, and professionalism you shared with our Panther family. Yes. Yes, and I would like to recognize the special guest we have in the audience with us tonight. If I could ask him to stand, not mean to put him on the spot, but Dr. Jared Wheeler is our new assistant superintendent as of July the 1st, and we welcome Dr. Wheeler to our Panther family. I want to thank everyone who was able to come to our meet and greet this evening. Thank you so much for coming, and look forward to working with you, Dr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Dr.
Budget.
Old business, the budget. Yes. I would like at this time to, you do have a copy of the 3rd edition of our proposed budget. Before we really take that under consideration, I would like to go over just a little bit of information. I know this is something that we went over together. Thank you, Dr. Norman. I know this is, everyone hear me okay? Okay, I know this is something that we went over last fall, but we have some new team members who joined the team, and then I've added some new information. But this is just kind of Finance 101 overview of school finance and budgeting. We know that according to RSMO, some state laws, that all political subdivisions are required to prepare an annual budget and to appoint a budget officer. And under our district policy, you have appointed your superintendent of schools, the chief financial officer. And under our board policies, we are, and under Missouri statute, Missouri law, we are to prepare an annual budget. Keeping in mind, the budget is a tool that provides direction for the business operations of the school district. Again, there's a budget summary, but there's also a proposed expenditures based upon estimated revenues for a specific period of time. We know our school budget in and of itself is one of our most important legal guiding documents. Right up there with our comprehensive school improvement plan, of course, now our Mission 2020 plan that is built within, at least year one, within this year's budget. It is not static, excuse me, but it is a working document that will change throughout the year through board approved budget amendments and as actual financial data changes. Sometimes we receive a little more money in funding. Sometimes we receive a little less. Sometimes we have unexpected expenses that come up. Sometimes we don't. So that's why a budget is very fluid and it is not static. We are required each year to present what is called a report, and Katie and I work on this. Actually, several team members do, but ultimately Katie and I submit the annual Secretary of the Board report. Again, it's a year-end financial summary, and it's required by state statute as well. A lot of this information also is asked for by, and I've already been contacted by one of the professional organizations. They ask this for this budget information because it helps provide just general information when they are doing comparisons of expenditures and of salary schedules sometimes as well. Again, the district's financial health is determined by the ASBR, a healthy unrestricted ending fund balance. The state has set this at 25%. And so districts that are designated financially stressed usually have an unrestricted ending fund balance of 3% or less. And they, the state will start coming in, or if there is a negative fund balance in your Fund 1. The school budget, again, is required to be audited annually. We know we have Mr. Feeney, who comes in to do our annual audit. And we have to submit the findings of this audit, not only to our board, our public, but also to DESE. We do highlight some things throughout the budget. We have a message, we have estimated revenues, expenditures, we have to account for any payments that we have on, for example, for us, lease purchases, and then there's a general budget summary. There are general assumptions that we make when trying to put together a budget, and it's a comprehensive process. Katie and I have been working on it quite a lot, haven't we? And I know I thank you to our board members too, because through revisions 1 and 2 have made helpful suggestions and comments to really help us come up with our draft 3 that we have today. But school district budgets are fluid and difficult to calculate, specifically until the end of the year, because you never know what the funding level sometimes will be at the local, state, and federal levels. And then it depends what your expenditures are too on each of the line items. But there are assumptions upon which you build the budget. The first is, we have to assume revenue received at some percentage less than 100%. We know our state formula is not funded at 100%. We know our federal impact aid payments, our learning, they call them LOT, learning opportunities threshold, are not funded at 100%. We have to know that going in when we create a budget. We also have to look at actual expenditures. Sometimes there are some unforeseen expenses that come up. If we have a compressor that goes out, we have to buy a new unit, some of those unexpected things. We have to assume that there will be no major emergencies, we hope, when planning. We have to estimate a percentage of tax collection rates. We've been really fortunate that our county, our tax collection rate is relatively good. So I appreciate that. And so that's something we have to look at. We also have to look at, we mentioned this, our impact aid payments, come in usually anywhere between 50 and 80% LOT, learning opportunities threshold. We look at revenue sources. Of course, we have local, county, and state and federal funds that come in, and those have been highlighted on the budget that I have shared with you, draft. We also realize that in state revenue information, we are down. Matt and I just learned this at the MSBA Leadership Conference that there are now 518 school districts. Last year there were 521. So we've had some school districts that have consolidated or closed. We have a funding formula that has never been fully funded in recent years. And so that it is a concern as well. We have to look at the fact that student enrollment and student attendance are big factors in a budget. You'll hear the term ADA, average daily attendance. And student enrollment numbers in the non-master school district and in Johnson County have been declining for whatever reason. That's something that Johnson County has experienced as I go to superintendent meetings. So that's something we will have to look at. So when we look at our revenue sources, projected revenues, and I've shared this information with you as well, you can see our projected revenues that we feel we're going to take in each of the 4 areas, local, county, state, and federal. And we'll highlight those when we go through the actual document, but you can see that a majority of our funding is through, major part is through state funding at 41.66%, right at 6.5 million, followed by federal impact aid at 32%, a little over 5 million. And then and that's impact aid, but that's also federal money, such as our STEAM monies we get. That's also our title program monies we get for federal programs. You can see at the state, at the county level, and then the local level. Local level's a little over 3.7 million, 23% of the budget, and then local 2.24, right at 350,000. School districts funds. We talk about the fund accounts, and always looking each month when I give you the financial update, we look at our fund accounts. Fund 1 is our general or incidental fund. And really, these are the operations of the school district. This is where we spend a lot of our district monies paying for bills within the district. Fund 2, we have the teachers fund. These are for certified salaries, benefits, and tuitions to other districts if we're having to pay for special programs or services to other districts. A lot of our money we receive from the state, they tell us exactly which fund we have to put it in. A lot of that money does go into Fund 2. Fund 3, we don't have debt service fund. We have a lease purchase, so we do not have a bond issue there. And so then we have Fund 4, which are capital projects funds. These are all major capital outlay payments we may have, or purchases, construction, that sort of thing, principal and interest payments. The other thing I thought, I know it gets a little confusing on our budget, but you will see that there are function codes, there are object codes, there are building codes, there are program codes, and Katie and I just received information and training through a new Omni required federal training that we're probably going to have. We're calling them classification codes, is that right? So we'll add 3 more codes on the end of that. And you're saying, why do you have so many codes? It's because we operate out of a very thick required DESE financial manual. And we have to go according to those codes, but every district has had to go through an Omni training, which are new federal guidelines on how you have to report out spending of federal money, and how what you're spending at the federal level, but also what are you doing to show impact, and what district monies are you providing. So you have to separate those out a little bit. But some of these function codes, just highlighting, code 1000 really deals with instruction. Code 2 is support services, guidance, media centers, professional development, A+, health services, food services, transportation, plant operations. Code 3 really deals with community services, our parents, parent educator programs, parents as teacher, or Title I preschool programs. Code 4 really deals with facilities and construction, and then Code 5 is really the debt services. That could include interest on our lease purchase. We also, just in talking a lot about object codes, I know you see some of these, and you're going to hear us refer to these when we're going over the budget, but 6,100 pretty much are salaries, okay? That we pay out. And one of the largest expenditures of our budget, as in every school district, is for salaries and benefits. So you'll see a lot of money assigned to code 6,100 or 6,200 in the budget document. 6,300 are on purchase services. And I know, Mr. Birchie, you and I talked quite a bit about purchase services. That's a number of things. It's not only maybe, professional development, but it's also like when we, if we bring in some special programming for our special services, occupational therapy, for students, physical therapy, that type of thing. 6,400 are supplies, and of course, a lot of money is spent, obviously, in that code area as well. I wanted to highlight just quickly, and we'll go over this more in detail with the budget, but you can see we're looking at proposed expenditures. Salary and benefits really do make up about 73, almost 74% of our spending, right at 11.5, almost 11.6 million. You can see then followed by the next area would be supplies and purchase services, and then the capital for our lease purchase payments, and also for those construction needs that we have, or big ticket items like things that cost $1,000 or more come out of the capital fund. And you can see where we're at on that. Other financial considerations that we have to look at when you're planning a budget are salary increases. I know what was approved by the board the last meeting, last two meetings, those have been figured into the budget. We have to look at insurance benefit changes. We did make a few changes in opening up more opportunities for cafeteria flex plans. So those will have some impacts on the budget as well. Our team members who go back to school, our teachers who go back to school and move across the salary schedule, they turn those hours in usually by September 1st, and that could impact our salary schedule. Staff additions due to increased enrollment might be another variable that comes up. Any emergencies. Occasionally we'll have one-time expenditures that come up, or ongoing expenditures, decreases in state and impact aid funding levels, and of course the decline in student enrollment. So those are all things you think about when you are creating a budget. Mr. Birchie and I are looking at options with our investments. Right now, we do have some of our savings invested in LoCIP, which is a very safe and secure investment program. We do have an account balance there of 3.1 million, and that is part of our reserves, our savings. And the superintendent, board treasurer are currently investigating fully secured investment options. We've already had one meeting, have a meeting later this month to go to find out more information. What we have right now, a current dividend reinvestment rate of 0.04. We think we can do better, but usually have to lock your money up or tie it, commit it for longer terms to get the higher percentage rate. As we all know and have experienced, we're not getting very good interest rates, are we, on our savings or money market accounts, but we do think we can do better than that, and so we're actively looking at that. And then I know something Mrs. Matthews had asked me to include, and I did include in our PowerPoint here, over the last 15 years, our estimated combined balances for all of our funds at the close of the year. So we have done a 15-year profile of those. We don't know, this is not final yet. We have to pay our bills for June, July, and August. But we are projecting, it's not final, having in reserves right at about $6.7 million, a little bit over. And then at the end of 2016, which is a long time from now, June 30th, 2016, we are estimating that it should be around $6.7 million, maybe just a little bit more than we closed the year this year. So I will make sure that you have access to that information as well. But just wanted to highlight a few things before we got into our budget conversations. You will see back in 2002, and that's how far back we go, we had 3.5 million, okay, in reserves. And you can see that trend kind of, that was kind of the same in 2003, 2004, we had 5.7 million, 2005, 7.1. 2006, we started to see impact aid monies coming in at very healthy ranges. And so in 2007,
Not a 6, you see a 9.1 million reserve, 2007, 11 million, 2008, 12 million, 2009 went back to 9 million, and then in 2010, 6.5 million, 11 was the 8.6 million, 8.8 and 12, and then you see 13 and 14 were right at about 7.4, 7.5 million. This year we're anticipating, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope we're closer to 7, but I don't know that until we pay our bills. Katie and I won't know that until we pay the bills at the end of the year, but we're projecting we're gonna be right at about 6.7 million when we close the books in reserves.
I guess one of the questions I have is when you look at the numbers for 2007, 2008,
Mhm.
2009,
Yes,
was our ADA considerably higher than
Yep.
what it is today?
it really was, Mr. Bertier. Student enrollment was higher and the impact aid levels, the funding was really strong, very strong. And so what we're facing now is, our student enrollment numbers have gone down. The impact aid, we are very fortunate to receive the funding we received this year, but still in comparison to like 5 years ago, 6 years, 7 years ago, the funding levels are much lower. But the good news is, and I want you all to know this because it's the truth, we've been good stewards. Our trending reports every month, we've really watched our expenditures and the revenue coming in. We have very healthy budget trends. And so we've been good stewards with district money, stakeholder money, district money this year, and we will continue to do that. And the budget that I'm presenting you tonight, the revision 3, is being a good steward as well with those funds. In fact, we're hoping to increase our reserves from 6.7 million to 6.78. So it should increase, we're hoping, by about $10,000, $12,000.
So which brings us to the actual budget proposal. And I'd like to highlight just a few things here. I know I did quite a bit of that the last time we met, kind of went over the budget summary, but I did update the percentages on all that. But our estimated revenues that we're estimating that we will bring in next school year is at $15,639,361. Our estimated expenditures are projected at $15,620,433. So there's a difference there of us taking in more money than we're spending by about $18,928. This would leave us with a unrestricted reserve of 35% if we met these budget goals. Now, in the past, we have had a district goal of 40%. The board's had this conversation before about, what level we want that set at, and what we'll feel comfortable with. But the proposed budget tonight is at 35% unrestricted reserve. It's 10% over what the state says is healthy, considered healthy. And please note that this budget includes our mission, year 1 of our Mission 2020 plan. Which if in our budget summary, when we look at that, it's a little over $500,000, that part of the plan. It's right at 500, almost $600,000. It's projected at $574,399, of which $62,500 will come from our STEAM grant. So really, truly, only $511,899 should come out of district funds for our Mission 2020.
Which means left over to spend, we're gonna have $18,928, is that correct?
Yes, to stay with a balanced budget. Yes, and that's always our goal, is to try to have a balanced budget. I did build in a little bit extra because, and Mrs. Matthews, you and I talked about this, and I know it wasn't quite that amount, and Katie and I worked on that diligently because we know that we're watching class size numbers. If we would have to add, staff, that's a consideration. We also know, like we talked about, maybe some of our teachers are going back to school, and we'll move over on the salary schedule. We had talked about with our class sizes, we're monitoring those. We get a weekly report from K&E and Whiteman Elementary. We've also touched base with our middle school about their numbers. The high school numbers are really good. Those haven't really been on our radar. Those numbers have been very much about the same. But we do ask, we do contact Mrs. Morris, but really the 3 buildings, we are getting up-to-date reports on those. And we have talked about anything from having an educational assistant, like a para-type position, to if the numbers became large enough, we would have to maybe look at adding a staff member. That's something that Dr. Wheeler and I will have to take into consideration in July. But we are aggressively watching those numbers every week, so that's important. School finance is a very complex process, and I think you learn something about it more each year. Katie and I are really excited about the new SysFin program and the capabilities of this. And so the next step in this process, if we'd be fortunate enough to have our budget passed this evening, which we have to pass one before June 30th by law, then we would take this information and type it line item by line item in SysFin. And so next year, your reports should be a little more condensed, and they'll all be from SysFin. It will be from an Excel spreadsheet. So we're excited about that as well.
Are there any questions about the budget?
I just have a couple. I'm not quite understanding is Medicare. One's under Whiteman Elementary, and then we have one under Mudmaster Elementary also.
Yes.
We have a total, well, we'll start up here with the Whiteman Elementary.
Okay.
We have a total of 13,313.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then under operations, we have $91. For a total of, under teacher is 13,222. I'm not quite I understand what is the operations
Okay,
portion
operations,
of the Medicare?
that is Fund 1. And so which line item are you on? I'm so sorry.
It's on page 2.
Yes.
It's about 3/4 of the way down the page under Medicare.
Oh, yes. Okay, under not Noster Elementary.
I have one under Whiteman Elementary also.
Okay.
On page 2, we got different page numbers.
Okay.
So I've got one under page 2 and page 3. The one on page 3 is $53,
Right,
and the one on page 2 is $91.
right. The 402 code, do you see the 402 code
Yes.
out by that?
Yes.
That is a certain, I don't want to call it by the right name for you. That is a certain department code and program code, and that is some of our federal programming. So there are only certain people paid out of those codes. So that's why those numbers are different. So we have to approximate what their benefit package would be. And we have different people who are paid out of different federal title programs.
That just seems awful low. The one would be $91 and one would be $53 for an entire year.
Those were given to us by Mrs. Combs. Ms. Hanson, correct? Went through those and figured those.
Doesn't that seem to be low though?
It may be, but it may just be for one staff member. That's a good question. I can look into that.
That just seems to me like it's awful low.
On page 7,
Mm-hmm.
where you have teacher salary for under special ed.
Yeah.
What's the block of other there?
Under special ed,
On page 7,
okay,
you have teacher salary,
Oh,
then you have a block,
yes.
blocks of other.
those are when we have subs who come in, for special education, when we have a sub out, yeah, we have to call it other. Teacher salary, other.
And so I guess the reason for the difference in the amount is depending on which sub
Right,
position that they're filling.
absolutely.
And you said you had a couple of questions.
That was.
I know this is something we talked about last time. I need to find the right page here. We talked a lot about professional development, and so we still are in compliance with that, having to spend 1% of our district monies there. And we built in a little cushion in case, we do have a little bit of revenues increase, but we are in compliance with that.
Page 24.
Thank you.
Page 24.
I know that's something that Mr. Birchie asked me to look at, and we did adjust those numbers. So, we are required to spend, $56,812 with this proposed budget. We are budgeting $60,798. If we receive some grants this summer, which would be a wonderful thing, we don't know yet, but if we would, it changes your budget totals, and so that pushes that number up.
Yeah, what were the two codes that you mentioned?
Yes,
Oh, last week.
we adjusted all of those.
Quite a bit down.
Yes,
Yes.
and those were all in payroll
Okay.
and benefits. Right, Katie, we did them both. They were all in payroll and benefits. The second one, the first one you had was on some other funding
It was on revenue,
revenue.
and it was just one that we hadn't realized that revenue in the last couple of years.
Yeah, so we
eliminated it from
reduced
this
that,
budget, which is
yeah.
great. And then, not great, we're not.
Right, no.
It's great that,
We did
get it
adjust it.
correct.
Right,
So,
because of our trend line, we weren't getting in as much as what the last couple of years had in the budget. So that was the first question Matt had, and the second one was on payroll.
yeah, I think it was substitute
It
payroll,
was on subs
and it was
payroll.
something about coding, we
Yes.
hadn't been coding
So
correctly, it was
That
not
is
maybe.
correct.
So we probably really have spent some of that money, but we
Yes.
just needs to be decoding correctly. In the
Absolutely.
current year, compared that to where we're at this year, we still have,
Right,
we still budgeted for that this next year though.
we sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Katie and I spent quite a bit of time. I don't say Katie and I, but I do want to thank Katie. She's really spent a lot of hours analyzing the budgets with me over the last couple of years. We feel better about it, feel like it. And it was a coding issue. And so we know which codes we need to use, and we did change those codes within the budget proposal. So we should be accurate.
And under, on page 33, under food services,
Mm-hmm.
I just hate to keep beating this food
No, that's
service
okay.
thing to death, but, for, OPA was, budgeted 350,000,
Mm-hmm.
and that's for their 10 employees, correct?
Yes,
And the food costs, right?
yes, yes, sir.
Okay, then all the other numbers that are under here, the 71,000,
Mm-hmm.
17,000,
Those are our 5 employees.
those are our 5 employees, and the 13,500 is the if something goes wrong with equipment, right?
Right, and then the 5,000 are for some other supplies and materials, and we are really, we're needing to buy some things. We bought a few things this past year, but we're gonna have to buy some other things, because we've had, inspections, and they tell you when things are starting to wear out. And those are,
So
anywhere from cooling racks to,
so the total of the budget for basically the food service is
Mhm.
$535,787.
yes, sir. And it's 3.43% of our budget.
I have a question there, Dan, in reference to looking at the DESI numbers for 2013 and 14, the overall cost of labor for our own employees and the Oprah contractor. I came up with $377,000 for 2013 and 14, as opposed to $438,000 in the new budget for the overall cost of salaries for our folks. And I'm guessing that this Oprah portion would be their overall labor cost or cost in general.
Right.
So if you had that 350,000 to the 71,000 and the 17,000, I come up with about 438,000. And like I said, last year, the 2013-14 year, and that's
Well, and there was one coding issue, you know,
Okay.
that closed the year last year that was brought to our attention. I think it was $30-some thousand by the previous.
It's under 25616332. Is that contract repairs and maintenance is what that is, 15,000?
Yes.
And
yes.
then just the
Mhm.
25616541 would once again be if we had to buy a refrigerator or something.
Exactly,
correct? Okay, so
They're
the contract
$1,000 or
repairs are
more, yeah.
15,000.
right. Right.
Okay.
And that's just a guesstimation, but we
Yeah.
did have some ice machines go down that we try to fix, walk-in coolers, Plant can speak to this, we try to fix, we finally have to, we have to finally maybe purchase one. So,
Do we
That
have,
just goes back to that original thing. I can't understand why they don't have to pay for portion.
I guess the question is, do we have a remedial maintenance program to look at this equipment? Is it inspected or worked on or serviced on?
Actually, they do come in and do inspections on it,
I mean,
and
is this something that like our own folks can do to make sure like dishwasher equipment is being properly maintained?
Dean's really very good at that. He's been on that, and also I know OPA, I spoke with them personally, and they have been doing extra training on how to take care of our equipment properly, especially our steamers. We've had a little bit of an issue with some of our steamers,
You don't
so,
want to issue hard water and wine.
yes, we do. And then if you don't follow the process correctly, then it becomes an issue.
Also under food service, is that, in this food service, is it, counting the amount of time that our custodian stands and empties trays at lunchtime? Is that all included in here? Or-
No, sir, that's not.
So the classified part-time salary is our 5 employees then?
Mhm. Some people are part-time. That's a good question, though. You're right, we do.
Those are our folks working 3.75 hours a day or?
Some of them are, it just depends on what, they figure out the hours that they feel they'll need by the number of meals that we serve. Mr. Ritchie, each week, each month they look at that and if they say, we need more, we need to increase hours, and they increase
But the
hours.
majority of the kitchen staff probably do that.
Yes,
So they may be getting more hours than our folks.
they may, but I doubt it. They really watch, most of them, they really watch the hours, so,
I have a question on the textbooks.
yes, yes,
Do we, well, it's textbooks for each building.
yes.
Do we spend that much on textbooks,
Well,
or did we last year?
Which
It
page
was
you
part
on,
of,
I'm sorry?
Well, it's all for each building.
Oh,
It's
okay.
part of our Mission 2020 plan, that's why some of those amounts look rather large, is because we are committing, like, for example, we're buying social studies textbooks under year one, and that costs quite a bit of money. So not every year will that be as high. Last year, we did spend a lot because we bought the new ELA series, but that's an excellent question, but really, social studies, I believe, is our focus area next year to buy textbooks.
So were we going to look for,
Yeah,
I think
we-
we discussed like
yeah.
online something or?
I know when we've talked to our teaching team, we've and then we talked for the elementaries, maybe more magazines or modules. So we've looked at hard print copy, but also online resources. And what we'll do is much like when we brought in our ELA resource options, we had companies come in and present And then our teachers really voted, and we had a rubric that we used to really provide good feedback and direction to, so that we as a team could decide which resource we felt would be most helpful to our students, impact instruction the greatest level, and be a helpful resource to our teachers. And so they'll be very much a part of that process before we spend, that dollar amount on books. So,
Cause I just remember we had talked about all that stuff. and I
Mhm. Hopefully moving more that direction in a lot of ways, but that we're kind of in a time of transition. Definitely as we see more deeper levels of technology integration increase, I'm hoping definitely move more in that direction.
Anybody got any questions? I'll make a motion that we move forward and adopt and approve 2015, 16 budget.
I'll second.
I'd like, before we take a vote on that, I'd like to just explain that Dr. Lorenz and Katie and Paul spent a lot of time putting the budget together. Also, I would caution everybody in all areas of the school district to be fiscally responsible with the $18,928 left over. That's not a lot of money. So we just have to be good.
Be good stewards, that's right.
We need something that could throw a wrench in the whole thing, is if we end up buying a bus or something.
No,
That's built in.
Uh-huh.
It's
But
built in.
we don't plan on spending it this time, do we?
Yeah, we do it next spring, we're hoping. I think they'll underway, but that still comes out this
Well, there's a lot
fiscal
of
year.
things that could still mention that we don't get impacted.
Impact aid would be a big wrench, yeah. Enrollment numbers continue to decline, that'd be a big wrench, or state funding. Yes.
If we don't do summer school, that would be,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, and thank you, Mrs. Matthews, that's what I meant to bring up, I really appreciate you saying that. Our summer school, and I want to thank our teachers, we have some teachers sitting here right now that are working summer school or who have worked it last year. I want to thank you because, number one, we are providing learning opportunities, very good enriched learning opportunities for our students during an entire month, which is an amazing thing and very important in their learning and development. The second piece of that is in looking at our budget trends, the summer school really funding, the ADA we receive really helps us provide high quality educational programming throughout the school year. So it really did help us as I was working on the budget. We were down, our ADA was down by like 40 students. Summer school last year made up for 33 out of the 40 students, the ADA hours. So it's critically important that we run a comprehensive summer school program, most importantly, to keep our kids learning. And I know our community is very thankful for that, having the opportunity for that. Our kids are having a good time. Our teachers have been amazing, and they really have, because I know it, you just finished a school year and, it's like they get their second wind and they have been troopers, and I just really want to thank them for their devotion and professionalism about the whole thing, because it's been a great summer school this year. But we need to continue as we're planning for summer school next year, we really need to have conversations about how we can keep the enrollment up. No matter which direction we go with summer school, whether we write our own curriculum, create our own units, or, work with partner with a company, we really have to have good, strong enrollment. So to help us throughout the whole year.
How's the enrollment been? I know like last year, we went through a period where we lost a lot, especially from the middle school,
Right.
wasn't it?
They have retained their numbers at a higher rate this year. I mean, we've lost some overall, but our numbers are still very, very strong. And I think it's made all the difference in the world having the kids at the middle school. They're in their own building. They're not in an elementary school. And, middle school kids, and we did it because of construction, but it wasn't as fun to be at the elementary school with the little kids. They wanted to have their own big kid space, and they had that this year, and it's worked out really, really well.
So have the numbers been,
Pretty strong. We've lost some, but not. I should have a good update for you all at the next board meeting. But they have stayed strong. But we're halfway through, right, guys, right? The halfway mark just about this week. Yeah, just past it, right? Just slightly past it. So, not at this point, I don't, but I can have that for you at the next. It really depends if kids come over the next, 2 weeks to summer school too. I mean, that attendance is so important.
Dr. Lorenz, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember the House bill number, I think it was 459 or something. I cannot remember the number, but there was ballot language on it this year that basically we can't be fooled by what the state is telling us is 100% funding
Yes.
on childhood education, because on that House bill, what I read and was to understand on it was, in the past, they've come up with funding issues and said, well, we're sorry that we could only fund 80% of the complete funding. Well, on the House bill language this year, that and it was making its way through, what they did was, even though it may have only been 80% of the funding they could supply, that was the money they had. So now they were going to call it 100%. So and if it drops down to 50%, it's still going to be 100%. So it's just the language on the bill that was put through that's kind of tricky. So it really, we're not going to be getting more money from the state funding side of this, which is the largest portion, as you can see, of our funding that comes in. But I would imagine that we're probably going to see some trends. Of course, Missouri's in a little bit better situation than Kansas is at this time, but we need to kind of stay on our representatives and stuff about that too, because just to change a little bit of ballot language doesn't necessarily mean that you got more money coming in when they're just throwing a smoke screen up, basically.
Mr. Pendelli, I'm glad you brought that up. And today, actually, we were very fortunate as a district, and to bring this up in our announcements, we had Representative Nathan Beard, who's a brand new representative that serves our district, and he came up to visit summer school and met some of our staff members and students. And he also said, I'm new, could you, because I started talking to him about the transfer student issue and everything that was tagged on to that language. And so he said, well, would you mind if I emailed you or called you if I had a question about education? Because he said, I'm new, I'm learning. So I really appreciate that. So we are trying to partner with our state and local and federal representatives. It's critically important that we stay connected there, and that we do share our story, how, the state aid does impact the programs we offer for our students. How does the federal impact aid impact our students? So it's very important. I'd like to also note that at a funding thing, we aggressively and are committed to pursuing grants. So we try to look for opportunities to help, make up for the decline in monies as well. And our teachers have made that commitment. I'm really happy and proud that, they've worked really hard on that, as well as our administrative team. So that's something we will continue to look for, resources that we know will benefit our students. Yes, and on that note, this is a perfect time to recognize this. Mrs. Neva Allen, could you stand up for a moment? Mrs. Allen wrote a career and technical enhancement grant, and so we are going to receive some pretty amazing new technology tools and resources for the classroom. So I want to thank her for that. Right at $20,000 to our district, and that was accounted for in the budget. It's a 25 match, so we'll spend right at a little over $12,000 from district monies for that. But we are always seeking those opportunities to try to impact our students in a positive way. So I really feel like our Board of Education, I really feel like our team, our educational team, and its entirety, we're trying to be very good stewards. So Good job, Neva. Yes.
You'll have to come see it when we get
Yeah.
home.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we have a motion and a second. All in favor to approve the budget for 2015-2016. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we need to take a 5-minute break for, okay, 5-minute break before we go into executive? Oh. We take-
Yeah. I make a motion that we adjourn to executive session pursuant to RSMO 610-021-3, RSMO 610.021-13.
Okay, we'll take 5 minutes and we'll back.
Second.
Second. Roll call. Yeah.
Now, since there's such a.
About 10 after. I mean, 5 after. 5 after.
Yeah, really, I didn't think about afternoons, we're so busy. It is on the environment, but we did have a break.
You're large and in charge here.
Right.